Independence Man here, exposing government corruption, one friend at a time. Friends, the ATF has been caught red-handed allowing thousands of guns to be purchased and then transported across the border into Mexico illegally. Some of these guns were purchased by known straw buyers, a person who buys guns for someone who cannot or chooses not to purchase them themselves. It's known that over 600 guns were purchased by a single straw buyer in just a few months, and many of these transactions were videotaped by the ATF. So now, because of the ATF's well thought out and conceived plan, there's 2 dead Americans and hundreds of dead Mexicans, and it's not over yet. These guns will be used in crimes and murders for years to come, and I hold the ATF and their superiors personally responsible. Border Patrol Agent Brian Terry and I.C.E. Agent Jaime Zapata were murdered, and the ATF was an accomplice.
The ATF allowed Arizona gun stores to sell to suspected straw buyers, even though those agents knew the buyer was a straw for the cartels.
Guns were being run into Mexico, and ATF knew about it.
The ATF told them to go through with the sales.
They would tell us to continue to sell them.
We were mandated to let these guns go.
We were giving guns to people who were killing other humans.
The very agency which is charged with stopping that from happening was in fact encouraging U.S. gun stores to break the law.
When they picked up guns and ran them, ATF came back and said these are part of a larger operation, stand down.
The notion that you would let guns walk in a firearms case is, for me, absurd. Absurd.
Say it a few more times, Mr. Attorney General. Maybe you'll convince yourself that it didn't happen. Didn't you just hear that she-cow next to you admitting it? You are absurd. Absurd. If you think that your denial will convince us that it didn't happen. You knew that guns were being allowed into Mexico illegally. That's absurd. Absurd.
When did you first know about the program, officially I believe called Fast and Furious?
I'm not sure the exact date, but I probably heard about Fast and Furious for the first time over the last few weeks.
Yet internal Justice Department documents show that at least 10 months before that hearing, Holder began receiving frequent memos discussing Fast and Furious.
The whole premise of this horribly flawed operation, we're being told, was to stop the flow of drugs into our country from the south and stop the flow of guns into Mexico from the north, the United States. Yeah, right. The ATF was going to let a few thousand guns go into Mexico, get them into the hands of the drug cartels, and just see what happens. Then, I suppose, they were going to spring up on the criminals at the last moment, shout surprise, and then go down in history as a great and mighty force for catching the drug lords and their minions with guns and the drugs that the ATF allowed to cross the border to begin with. Do you know what that sounds like to me? I know I'm just some tinfoil hat wearing conspiracy theorist, but if they really want to control the flow of drugs and guns crisscrossing our borders on a daily basis and killing American and Mexican mothers and fathers and sisters and brothers and sons and daughters, the answer seems pretty simple to me. Just shut down the borders. Put our military to work at the job they're supposed to be doing in the first place, protecting our country, instead of having them all over the world stirring up trouble and trying to control all the oil resources for the banksters and the corporations that are controlling the United States government and the world. Now, I know I don't understand all the intricacies involved in an operation of this sort. I mean, there's all the rules and regulations, and the rights of the suspects need to be taken into consideration, and the little guys at the bottom are merely transferring the guns and the drugs to the big guys at the top, and it's by letting the little guys at the bottom get away with the guns and the drugs that the big guys at the top are going to be apprehended. And then the ATF and the D.E.A. and the D.O.J. and I.C.E. and the I.R.S. and Homeland Security and Bill Newell and Eric Holder and Janet Napolitano and Hillary Clinton and President Obama can all pat each other on the back, shake each other's hands, and tell the world what a great job they did fighting crime, catching criminals, and stopping guns and drugs from crossing the borders, and maybe, just maybe, tighten up a little bit on our Second Amendment rights in the process. If you think that's a conspiracy theory, wait till you hear these bozos telling you how they want you to have guns. Oh, they believe in the Second Amendment, all right. They just don't know what it's there for.
The federal government doesn't want your guns. I don't want your guns.
I believe in the Second Amendment for hunting.
the constitutional rights of hunters.
It is enormously important to protect people's Second Amendment rights. I don't believe that means you need an AK-47 to hunt.
Show me a deer wearing a Kevlar vest.
Are you freaking kidding me? You think the Second Amendment is there to allow us to hunt? Wake up, man. When the Second Amendment was added, if you didn't hunt, you didn't eat. Our founding fathers knew that without guns, the government would have us enslaved. This is what happens all throughout history, man. The Second Amendment for hunters. Come on, man. Oh, independence, man. It's always a conspiracy with you. The next thing you know, you'll be saying that they want to teach your school kids that carrying a gun is bad, or that they need to turn people in for legally carrying a gun. I mean, what do you think they're going to do? Try to brainwash our kids or something? You're such a conspiracy nut.
I've also asked the school board to make a part of every day some kind of anti-violence, anti-gun message. Every day, every school, at every level. Telling these youngsters that it's wrong to carry a gun and that if you have information about people who are carrying guns, you've got to share that. We need to do this every day of the week and just really brainwash people into thinking about guns in a vastly different way.
And I'm the conspiracy nut for pointing this out? Friends, this is a dangerous man that Obama has appointed to Attorney General. He wants to brainwash our children, change the way we think about our Second Amendment. I can see it coming now, man. A bunch of brain-dead zombies thinking our Constitution is bad and that the government, with idiots like this appointed into high office, is good. Ah, friends, it just keeps getting better. Now, listen as Congressman Patrick Meehan from my home state of Pennsylvania gets William Newell, the lead ATF agent in this case, to tell you who else was involved.
Who defined the strategy for Fast and Furious? Who originated the strategy for Fast and Furious? Mr. Newell, I asked you a specific question. Tell me who the person is. Tell me who participated.
It was Immigration and Customs Enforcement, now known as Homeland Security Investigations. We had Internal Revenue Service, and we had assistance to some level from DEA.
So are you saying DEA, I.R.S., and I.C.E. all knew about this? Were they aware that guns were being walked to Mexico?
I'm assuming that they were, I mean, I know they were aware of the strategy, but it's...
They were aware of the strategy?
Yes, sir.
Friends, I've shown you the facts. The ATF allowed guns into Mexico illegally. Gun shop owners, the ATF's own agents, the Secretary of Homeland Security, the lead officers in the Fast and Furious operation, Attorney General Eric Holder, and even President Obama, for what it's worth, told you the ATF allowed the guns to walk, knowing they were going to end up in the hands of the Mexican drug cartels. This, by its very definition, is accessory to a crime. The crime in this case is murder. The ATF agents involved in this case are unquestionably guilty of accessory to murder. But it goes farther than that, friends, much farther. You heard the lead agents in the case, William Newell, tell you that the D.E.A., I.C.E., and the I.R.S. also knew of the strategies of this operation. They knew it, and they allowed it to happen. You know about the documents sent to Eric the Brainwasher Holder, informing him about the facts in this case. Friends, the ATF and others were accessories to the murders of Brian Terry, Jaime Zapata, and hundreds of Mexican citizens, and that's not debatable. Peace, friends. Infowars.com.